Yep.
Okay. Good morning, councillors and staff. Welcome to the July meeting of Murrumbidgee Council. We pay respect to the traditional custodians of the lands and waters of the Murrumbidgee local government area and to all Aboriginal elders past, present and emerging. We are committed to honouring the continuing connection that First Australians hold to Murrumbidgee's land, waters and community as one of the oldest living cultures in human history. In the spirit of open, accessible and transparent government and to ensure this meeting is open to the public, this council meeting is being recorded and live streamed to the Murrumbidgee Council Facebook page. A recording will also be placed on Council's website following the meeting. I'll call for any apologies, please.
Everybody's here, true and correct?
Good. Everybody's here? Good morning, Faith. Okay, I remind the councillors of their pecuniary interest declarations. Does anybody have any declaration that hasn't been passed forward? If not, there's no notices of decision, notice of motion. I move to my report. The middle of winter is indeed cold, foggy and damp. But in the last week or so, we have seen some sunshine. We've had recent school holidays, the pilgrimage north by our grain nomads, so our roads have been busy. Our youth had the opportunity to attend some school holiday activities, gladly and much appreciated, and thanks to council staff who facilitated that. Although often commented on the state of all of our roads as being addressed as expediently as our human and financial resources allow, we continue to attract tranches of various funding opportunities ably secured by our operational staff. Our road network is our largest, hungriest and resource-heavy asset, and as such is a constant challenge. We value your continuing vigilance and advocacy in helping to keep us all safe and our roads as fit for purpose as they can be. I'd like to commend our three communities for the positive mindset and proactive approach they have put in place as our new waste strategy has been rolled out. The information trail and continuing positive promotion is most definitely proving to be invaluable. The success of this initiative is a collective want to make it happen. I had the pleasure of attending and being part of the official opening of the Darlington Point Shower Hall. The refurbishment of this stately building holds pride of place in Darlington Point and was thoroughly deserving of its new life. A step back in time saw some period displays and a fun dress theme for the evening. The whole of council support for this project enabled it to be prioritised and funded by the New South Wales State Government. It was a very enjoyable evening. Thanks to the Darlington Point Public School, Heritage Darlington Point, Murrumbidgee Council and Damien Thorne and Shane Ronan, who ensured we were all thoroughly entertained, well fed and adequately hydrated. Special mention should be made of Council's building team and staff members, Sue Mitchell, Anne Lyons, Eden Hercus and all who contributed to the success of the event. The Candiana Borough's latest graduation ceremony was held on the 28th of June. Family, friends, elders and community members were invited guests. Graduates proudly displayed the fruits of their labours after the intensive 12-week program. It is truly eye-opening, the ground they cover in this time frame. It was a great celebration for all involved. And below is a list of meetings I've attended since the June council meeting, which probably is indicative of this time of year. It's not quite as busy travelling wise, but there's much going on in the virtual space. Okay, are there any questions, please? If not, somebody like to move? Move Councillor Major, seconded Councillor Curfew. Those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against? Carried, thank you. No delegates' reports. We'll move to item 1 of the officers' reports, please, John.
Thank you, Councillor McRae. Just the headline. Number 1 item on there is the new proposed rural farm gate waste and recycling collection. We mentioned the three stream is operational within the 3 townships. So council's turned their attention to this. The survey is out. currently. I got some initial numbers yesterday. We've had already about a 5% response, and it's stating about 80 to 85% would like to see the service. 80% would like it to be fortnightly, and we had another question there, which was, is $495 for fortnightly too much? And 90% of them said no, they'd be willing to pay that amount for that. So that's the numbers on about a 5% return so far. So we've still got a couple of weeks to get a few more numbers. Councillor Blake?
Yeah, I've had a couple of questions on this. Is it optional for the people to be to opt in and opt out?
No, it would not be able to be opt in, opt out. We'd have to change the numbers then.
What about where there's no rural places that you may have a house and no one living there because it's run down?
So we need to, that was probably going to be one of the hardest things that we're going to determine, because as when working through them, it's like we've got 864 rural properties out there, so we only did our math on half of those properties having a habitable building within them. So that's why we only chose the 420 and did those numbers. So that could be a factor at the end of the day that changes the figures when we find out drill down a little bit more. There might be 510 habitable properties, which would drop the thing.
Or might be 380.
Yeah,
It might be 380, and then that way, then
I'd be saying 380 myself.
Yeah. So we don't know, but there's some properties with more than one house on them too.
So whilst you say it won't be opt in or opt out, but potentially there could be little clusters, or like around Colambly, for example, might opt in, might be a lot around there. So would that be a consideration, just to run the service for that area?
Well, the numbers that are based on there is based on the specialist unit that we're looking at to bring in from Canada, and the front load bin truck. So they're the two biggest capital items which contribute a lot to the cost of this. And then the biggest item at the end of the day is the amount of time and the traffic that you go. So if I'm doing 1,400 kilometres a fortnight in collections and only picking half the bins, then all those 1,400 have to be paid for by half those properties. So that makes it a lot more expensive for them, and that would be something that we need to determine. Is it going to be viable for them? Because that 495 might be 700, because only half the property's in. This is what the scale and capacity comes from. Everybody being in part of the service, that delivery. At the end of the day, in the same in town here, people choose not to put the green bin out.
Yeah.
They choose not to put the green bin out, or whichever other bin that they choose. So that's the basis, and it might sound harsh, but that's how we get the economies of scale. That's how we get the price down, fairly inexpensive to be able to do it, as if everybody's into it. So we'll see what the numbers come back, and hopefully by August we'll definitely know this will be closed. We'll do some more analysis. We're trying to get final numbers on the equipment to be able to move forward. I've got to find a way of finding out exactly the residences, the houses that are occupied within the rural area. I've got to find a way to do that. As we spoke about previously, we've utilised collie irrigation data. We utilised our data to give just based on are we sending it the rates notices to RMB 105 Cook Road, or are we sending it to Post Office Box 32 Sydney, New South Wales 2000, right? If we're sending it up to there, then we need to have a conversation with them, because they might have 30 workers on the farm looking after that, whereas the other one we've assumed if it's going to a roadside mailbox that there is somebody there to collect that roadside mailbox, so there's somebody there to put bins out at that roadside mailbox, and that's how we come to those 400 odd numbers, to be able to say what the bottom figure would be of somebody being there, right? So, and that took into consideration there might be multiple farms on that one address, but it's still only going to one address.
But then you get out into the other community that are isolated out there, that you've only got one farm gate.
Yes.
down 30 kilometres.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. And I've only had one conversation with one person is what is the ability to actually go inside the farm. And I said I can only use my own experience from the Upper Murray. I said it was my job to drag the wheel bin when I was going to school, to take it down to the roadside before I jumped on the bus. And I said that was only a 1.5 kilometre driveway. So I don't know what it is. Is a 5 kilometre driveway a bit far? Is there other things that we can do to do that, or all need to come out on those conversations? Councillor Bryce?
Thanks, John. I just wanted to check on their surveys. They are actually saying where they are from, where their delivery is. It's not a random 5%.
I would have to get more detail. Anne will have that more detail. She just gave me some high level stuff for today of what the responses have been.
I think that's a very valid point, because that speaks to what Troy was saying, that, you know, if there's a cluster of people that are interested, that may work and be, you know, doable. But if it's random or very disconnected, a bit like the Swiss cheese water delivery mechanism, you know, it's going to prove very costly. Yeah. So can we get that information back to Faith, please?
Well, I'll ask you.
Okay.
She's got other data around that.
Any further questions around the waste issue? No?
I just think it's very positive, but yeah, end of the day, we need a few more responses.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like 5%'s a good number, 10%'s great.
Yeah.
If we get the 10%, that's absolutely brilliant. Then we can factor it all in. Just the other thing is that I always try and get in early before any of my team tries to put in the annual leave, so I get in there early and make sure that they can't take it at that time. So I'm just seeking approval to take annual leave from the 14th of December to the 7th of January inclusive, and for the recommendation for Gary Dole to act during that period. I'm giving him a couple of weeks off soon, so he can stay behind. And just one of the other things, Transport for New South Wales. In our conversations, which we're meeting with them quarterly, it was fantastic. We had a list of absolutely everything, which we'll keep on following up on in relation to that. But it was the more than twice daily bus service from Griffith to Darlington Point that they spoke about as part of the 17 cities approach. Darlington Point has been rolled into Griffith bus service. So we spoke about different things, and they've picked their route out at this point in time. We were giving them some opportunities of some other routes and things like that, which they will. We probably need to do a link between two roads, and then that would make it absolutely perfect for them. But it's not an ability at this point in time. So that is one of the highlights of that conversation, to actually find that out, because it was a question of mine, because having to do that run from between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. and watching all the traffic come down and watching the buses come down, I started to ask questions of Transport for New South Wales. We've got a Griffith bus coming down, so they gave us those answers. So once we know, they're wanting to put a bus shelter in at Adrian Douglas Park as part of that. So Tom is working with them because we're also putting the toilet block there. We suggested that we put it close to the toilet block and things like that. They wanted to remove the bus shelter from that street behind that there's a bus shelter, a little park there, that little space.
It's a redundant bus shelter.
Yeah, but I'm trying to remember the two streets at a time.
White and Tune Street.
Yes, there's a bus shelter there. They said, could they move that? I said, well, we'd have to go to the community first to find out if we move that, or we just build another one and just leave it standing, or whatever.
The one in front of the club doesn't get used either.
No, and there's no. I don't think that's a pickup point. No. We'll have that for them. The pickup point is closer to the CWA Park.
What
I
about
believe,
school
if I
kids?
remember
You pick up there.
their route.
Is Adrian Douglas Park the right place?
Well, the Young Street subdivision and everything else like that. It's a
A
short
lot of
walk.
elderly down that area. So
Yeah.
they're somewhere near the main street. 2 points.
There's two in the main street.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
They're not.
There is does the Collier Griffith bus go up that way?
The Griffith, this is the route that they're planning to
Right.
go right round, and we've got that. We're
Really?
working with them, and that's going down there, going down front of Adrian Douglas Park, back around. I think it might turn at turns at Gumview. You'd think it'd pick it up there.
Yeah.
Or close
Is
to that.
it because of the potential of the new subdivision that they've redone?
Yes, they did
Right?
say that was there, and that's what they tried to capture. So in their routes, our thought was that potential to go down around in King Street and back down, but that was the link that we'd need to go through past the sewer treatment plant to get across into there if we were going to link that up. And there's no road there at the moment, so they're not going to go down to a dead end and turn around, which is unfortunate.
It's not
because
making
we could have had
sense anyways.
Had a thing like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Any further questions about that? No? Okay.
Just Councillor Christmas party and breakup is the 8th of December. It'll be at the Colliambley Sports Club. More information to follow. Yes, as Councillor Saxwick's pointed out, 5 months till Christmas Day, so we need to be able to put things forward now along those lines. And then there's just a list of my movements and things like that. The only thing that I'll change on that, which has happened since the 3rd to 4th of August, is not the Country Bears Association. I've got to go back in for a second surgery on the 4th, so I'll be away on the 3rd and 4th sick. That's all. Other changes and all those things that are happening with there. So just recommendation is the information contained within the General Manager's report be noted and Council approve annual leave for Mr John Scarce from the 14th of December 2023 to the 7th of January 2024 and appoint Mr Gary Stoll acting General Manager for the period 14th of December 2023 to the 7th of January 2024 inclusive. Move for the seconder. Sorry. Taking the measure.
Somebody like to move? Move Councillor Jurgen, seconded Councillor Saxwick. Those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. Thank you. Item 2, please.
Caitlin.
So item number 2 relates to the Colliambley town block. So councillors are aware that they were all originally 99-year leases that were able to be converted to freehold at unimproved value. There's 7 of those remaining at this time, and basically proposing a policy to just to capture and clarify the conditions in the process around converting those remaining blocks to freehold, because those original lease terms have ended, but substantially proposing that they remain similar to the treatment that council has had for the previous blocks in the last year or so. So the recommendation is that Colliambley lease conversion policy be adopted, and also that we notify all of the current lessees that policy has been adopted, and give them the opportunity to convert that land.
Are there any questions of Caitlin, please?
No questions.
No? Would somebody like to move, please? Move Councillor Major, seconded Councillor Perkin. I'll put the recommendation, which will read. The revised Colliambley lease conversion policy be adopted and current lessees be notified of its adoption by mail. Those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against? Carried. Thank you. Item 3, please.
Item 3 is the quarterly report that we're required to prepare in relation to the Stronger Communities Fund. So this report relates to June 2023. And you'll see the report in the attachment and the progress of those projects. The proposal at this point is to revoke some of that additional interest income to cover the costs at the Darlington Point Hall, which was the furniture, seating and the cutlery and things that we've spoken about previously. So the recommendation is that the contents of the report be noted and that additional funding be voted for the Darlington Point Shire Hall upgrade.
Are there any questions of Caitlin, please? I've got a question, Caitlin. Is this the final amount?
The Darlington Point
Yes.
Shire Hall? Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Would somebody like to move, please? Move Councillor Gilbert, seconded Councillor Saxby. I'll put the recommendation, which will read: the contents of the report be noted and the additional funding to be voted for the Darlington Point Shire Hall upgrade in the amount of $20,377. Those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against? Carried. Thank you. Item 4, please.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. Item 4 is a report presented to Council today on revised place naming policy to standardise Council's approach to naming places, public places and roads within the Murrumbidgee Council area. It was presented to Council at the May Council meeting for consideration and placed on public exhibition from May through to June. During this period, no submissions were received, so it's brought back to Council for final adoption. The recommendation is that the revised place naming policy be adopted.
Thank you, Gary. Are there any questions of Gary, please? If not, would somebody like to move? Move Councillor Black, seconded Councillor Churgwin. Recommendation, which will read: the revised place naming policy be adopted. Those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Carried. Thank you. Item 5, please.
That would be mine. The revised tree management policy that councils that I seek council to exhibit the combination of the old Murrumbidgee Shire and the old Jerilderie Shire tree policies and combine them into one, advertise them for 28 days for review.
Thank you, Tom. Are there any questions of Tom regarding this policy? If not, I will, would somebody like to move? Move Councillor Curthy, seconded Councillor Churgwin. And the recommendation will read that 1, the revised tree management policy be endorsed by Council and placed on public exhibition for a period of 28 days, seeking community comment. And 2, upon completion of the exhibition period, the revised tree management policy be presented to Council for adoption. So I'll put the recommendation. Those in favour, please say aye. And those against? Carried. Thank you. We'll just move on to the officers' reports for noting. Item number 6, please.
Item 6 is the monthly investment report for the month of June 2023. So, as council are aware, we present this report every month. At the end of June, we had about just under $36 million invested, which are the details which are set out in the attachment. The performance was above the benchmark for both the month and the financial year to date, and all the investments are in line with the policy, the parameters set out in the policy. So the recommendation is just to note the monthly investment report that identifies all the money that council has invested.
Okay, are there any questions of Caitlin, please? If not, would somebody like to move? Move Councillor Major, seconded Councillor Strawn. And the recommendation will read: the council note the monthly investment reports identifying all money council has invested under section 625 of the Local Government Act 1993. Those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Okay, thank you. Item 7, please.
Item 7 again is a report that we're required to put to council each quarter in relation to the expenditure from the new council implementation fund. So as in previous quarters, the remaining funds have gone down to about $22,000, which are tagged for the LEP and the works associated with that. I will just add as an additional note, we've been doing a bit of a review. Councillors will remember we had some discussions about the Stronger Communities Fund interest that was required to be spent on those projects, and the new council implementation fund is part of the same funding deed, so it has the same conditions. So although we've not noted the interest on the report, I've done a quick calculation and calculated that I think there's about $176,000 of interest that would have accumulated on these funds during that time. I don't believe that that's the same as the Stronger Communities Fund, because I believe we would have actually expended that. So it's more a matter that hasn't hit this report, but would have been expended on some of these projects. So that's just for councillors to note. But the recommendation is that the contents of the report be noted.
Okay, are there any questions of Catherine regarding this report? We're nearly there. It's been very, very helpful and very very much appreciated, but it has been a bit like pulling teeth. And it'll be nice, Caitlin, I would imagine, when you don't have to write a report about it anymore. Okay, would somebody like to move, please? Move Councillor Major, seconded Councillor Gilbert, and the report will read that the contents of the new council implementation fund June 2023 report be noted. Those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Carried. Thank you. Item number 8, please, Gary.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. Item 8 is the report on the development applications approved under delegated authority by staff during June for council's information.
Hey,
Question?
are there any
Yeah,
questions?
thank
Councillor Black.
Question, the second last one, 7346 Gibbon Way, is that for a solar farm or a house subdivision or?
Through Madam Mayor, it's for 2-lot subdivision. The modification, he changed the lot sizes slightly, but the original application was just a 2-lot subdivision.
It's just an old standard one, nothing to do with solar farms.
Any further questions? If not, would somebody,
Could just,
Councillor Saxick.
just one thing that addresses, especially along the Kidman and Sturt Highway, could, if it is a property, could it be put in, so we know what property? Because it's one thing, like, we know them as, if you're going down the Sturt Highway, you know that this is this property, this is this property. We don't actually know their mailing address. Do you know what I mean? So if it is a property, maybe you just put it in brackets to say what property we're talking about, because, I, short of looking it up online, I wouldn't know where it is, because, even on the Kidman. So when the development applications come in, especially if it's in town, that's one thing, okay? You can go down the street, you have a rough idea. But when you're dealing with a highway, and the numbers vary from point A to point B, I just would like to know where and what we're dealing with.
Is that doable, Gary?
I think so.
Yep, I think so. There's no-
Through you, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, I know.
Absolutely. If it has a property name, absolutely.
It would just help us as councillors to know where we're dealing with.
Okay. All right, thanks. Councillor Bryce.
I just wanted to know the reason for the service station having to come back through the information again, whether it's just because they've now got an address in Wangamong Street.
Through Madam Mayor, no. They applied for modification of the development consent. The original development consent required them to put an on-site stormwater retention basin. They challenged that condition on the grounds that the adjoining service station wasn't required to put one in. It was reviewed by planning staff and engineering staff and agreed to that, to remove that condition.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further questions? What was the rationale for including it to start with, which has been removed?
I was not the planning officer at the time, and I would not have put it on originally.
You wouldn't have put it on originally. Okay, that's fine. Okay, any further questions? If not, would somebody like to move? Move Councillor Churgwin, seconded Councillor Saxick. That the recommendation will read the information contained in the development applications approved under delegation, June 2023, report be noted. Those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. Thank you, Councillor. Thank you. End of meeting.